This week, Bill Gates and his wife Melinda issued in 2020 open letter from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The Gates Foundation is definitely the largest charity in the world with fund operations. In an open letter, they wrote that the foundation had donated a total of $53.8 billion over the past 20 years. In fact, every year the foundation releases an open letter, which mainly talks about the achievements of the past year and future plans. However, I think the most important thing about this year's open letter is that they shared their strategies for charity. An American media Vox analysis of this strategy is in place. If you want to summarize this strategy in one word, it is the leverage effect. In today's Shao Heng Toutiao, I will use this open letter and Vox article to share with you how the Gates Foundation exerted its leverage effect. At the beginning of the open letter, the Gates found an anchor for the value of charity in society. He said that charities can never replace the functions of government or business. However, the role of the government is to invest a lot of resources to scale up those solutions that have proven successful, and most companies are responsible to investors, so they can only bear limited risks. Charities are not the same. Charities are more like a laboratory or incubator for testing solutions. If some programs pass the test, it will bring a major breakthrough to society. You see, isn't the Gates philosophy of charity different from our general understanding? When we talk about charity organizations, we always emphasize responsibility. When you take the donor's money, you must be careful about every penny. But philanthropy also bears another layer of function. It is to find breakthrough solutions for difficult social problems. Therefore, the charity itself also needs room for innovation, trial and failure. Of course, there is learning in how to find a solution. What the Gates Foundation has done is that they are not exploring solutions by themselves, and they have leveraged a lot of external resources to do this. Take the case of vaccines. Improving vaccination rates in poor areas is a major focus of the Gates Foundation. As of 2019, 760 million children have been vaccinated because of their work, reducing 13 million deaths, and the overall global child vaccination rate has increased to 86%. In the process, the cost of the vaccine was reduced from $3.65 to less than $1. But this is not the credit of the Gates Foundation's family. The Gates Foundation, in conjunction with the World Health Organization, the World Bank, and the United Nations, formed a global alliance for vaccines and immunization, called Gavi. The alliance has further recruited governments and other agencies from various countries to help them raise funds to buy and deliver vaccines. Bill Gates said the foundation does not want to develop new products on its own. The purpose of the foundation is to prove to the world that international cooperation around vaccines is not only possible but very necessary. So the result we saw later was that the Gates Foundation invested $4 billion in Gavi's seed funds, but this money has leveraged nearly $20 billion in funds, all of which came from external partners, such as the US government has invested more than $2 billion in Gavi, the British government has invested more than $4 billion, and the Italian and French governments have also invested about $1 billion. I put a picture below. You can see from the picture that nearly 30 countries and regions have invested in the Gavi project, and the Gates Foundation's donation accounts for only 20%. In the same vein, the Gates Foundation has also used it to fight AIDS. They invested about $3 billion in seed funds, leveraging government's $49 billion. As a result, 19 million people were treated for AIDS in 2018 alone. So you see, these results are all based on the leverage effect. The Gates Foundation used its own small money to leverage the large money of international organizations and governments, and ultimately allowed tens of billions of funds to flow around the world. In addition to leveraging money, they are also trying to find leverage on other resources. For example, one of the Gates Foundation's core goals is to achieve gender equality. One of the solutions is to promote women to occupy the positions of decision-makers and leaders in the fields of politics, technology, finance, and health, because the decisions made by these female leaders must also benefit other women to a greater extent. A kind of leverage effect. The beauty lies in being clever and doing big things. Of course, the foundation does not always find a good solution every time it takes a shot. One thing that particularly moved me about this open letter was the candidness of the Gates and his wife. For example, they have tried many different interventions in the fight against AIDS. At first, They devoted all their resources to the treatment medicines that were taken orally every day, but later found that in some low-income countries, the local government's health department simply couldn't deliver the medicines daily. They tried another cream that was used in the vagina, but later found that the cream did not 100% prevent infection. Later, they also discovered that physical illnesses needed to be treated and mental illnesses had to be eliminated. Because women in many poor countries are still ashamed of AIDS, they would rather die than seek treatment. So to this day, the Gates Foundation has begun to adjust its direction. They want to find a more effective way to prevent and cure what kind of method is not known yet, but Melinda wrote in an open letter that maybe there will be anti-AIDS drugs that need to be taken every other month in the future. There is even a lifelong vaccine against AIDS. At the same time, they have broadened the scope of HIV/AIDS work, increased financial education for women, entrepreneurship counseling, and reduced sexual violence. In the field of education, the Gates Foundation has also encountered many setbacks. It can even be said that education is the most failed field they have done. They invested a lot of resources to support the introduction of a universal set of teaching standards called Common Core in American middle schools, but this set of standards has been in the U.S. government and schools for a decade, and students' mathematics and reading skills are still in place. Bill Gates summarized this experience: "If we say what we have learned from education in 20 years, it is that scale is difficult. We are beginning to realize that scale in education it doesn't mean everyone has the same solution." So now, on the issue of education, the Gates Foundation has taken a new approach. Rather than devising a solution for everyone, it is better to let schools in various places come up with personalized solutions. So they took out $240 million and distributed it to a network of schools in 30 different regions. There were 820 schools in each school alliance, and what problems each alliance had to solve was defined by themselves. You see, in fact, this is also a kind of leveraged thinking, but it is not the funds that are leveraged, but the solutions in the minds of others. Of course, you can also give it an individual name, such as evolutionary thinking, thinking about crossing the river by feeling stones, and so on. The result is that these schools have really solved the problem by learning from each other's experiences. One of the cases, I find it particularly valuable, and I will share with you by the way. There is a Chicago high school that once ranked the oldest in the city, and many students can't even graduate from high school. Later, they discovered that for high school children, whether they can graduate successfully depends on high school. Those children with less than one subject in the first year of higher education have a 4 times higher probability of eventually graduating than those with more than 2 subjects in the first year of higher education. Later, this school focused on counseling high school students. Every freshman was assigned a teacher to give you organizational skills training, college planning, and teach you how to use the computer from the school to complete assignments. Every other month, a counselor will come to talk to you to see how you are doing at school and what taught you.